Hello world! So this vlog was inspired by my time living in London, which I still am of course, and a conversation I had with my friend and her friend a couple weekends ago over a glass of wine. So this friend of a friend mentioned something negative about the working class, and I didn't really understand what she meant because we all worked. They're teachers, I work in social care, so aren't we all working class? And why would this be something negative? So, throughout our discussion, I found out in fact no, being working class doesn't actually have to do with your profession, as the title implies, but rather your family background and where you're from and how you talk. My friends told me that actually we would probably all be defined as middle class. Middle class is above working class. Maybe not me actually, because I'm a foreigner, and foreigners don't really fit into the class system here. And if they do fit in the class system, foreigners are usually probably at the bottom. So I'm probably at the bottom, down there with people on benefits. So the class system here doesn't actually have to do with wealth. For instance, my friends are teachers, and even though they're paid a low wage, which actually I completely disagree with because teachers should be paid more, and that's a completely other blog, but they would define themselves as middle class over someone who, say, makes more money, like a builder or a construction worker, even though that person might make a lot more money. So it has to do with your family background, what your parents did for a job, how you talk, where you're from. This defines your class, not what you earn. This was a bit mind-blowing for me because my conceptualization of class is, and although I don't agree with this, the more money you have, the higher up the societal scale you go. This is how it is in North America. So as long as you have money, wealth from any job, including a construction worker, a bin man, you're viewed in society as, I guess, high class. You have money. However, I've never actually thought of class until I moved to England. It never came into my consciousness. Even though in university I studied philosophy and political science and had lots of debates around issues, class never came up in my time of growing up in Canada. It just didn't. So I think the class system matters quite a lot here in England, but it's not really spoken about. So kind of ingrained to society. People are defined by their class, and I think it's wrong and it needs to be restructured, and I hope in time it will be. I'm not saying that the North American model of class is perfect because you shouldn't get judged on your monetary wealth in society, but at least everyone has a more equal shot of moving up the class system, whereas here in England it's something you're born into, which just isn't fair. What's even more mind-blowing here is that even if you have the same profession, you can be from a different class. For example, my housemate and I, we have similar jobs in social care, yet he would define himself as working class, and I guess if I was British, I would define myself as middle class. And we make the same money, but this is because of where he's from and his family background, and I would define myself as middle class because of my family background. This makes no sense. If you're doing the same job, making the same money, then there shouldn't be any difference in your class or how you're viewed or judged in society, but people are. People don't really have equal opportunities here because of the class system, even though this is an amazing, great country. For instance, another example. When I first moved here, my friend, who is a solicitor and British, was telling me about one of their friends who was also a solicitor and British, and this person wanted to become a barrister. Now, I'm a layperson with law, so from my understanding, a barrister is a type of solicitor that actually goes to court, does the speaking in court. And to my understanding, a solicitor is someone kind of on the back burner. They do the paperwork and the research. So it's more prestigious here in England to be a barrister than it is to be a solicitor. So my friend was telling me that despite their friends' top grades from a top university, because being from a top university is very important here, not like in Canada where I'm from, where a degree is a degree is a degree. So anyways, their friend would not reach or be able to be a barrister because of the way that they talked, because of their accent. So that there's, for those Canadians that are watching, in England, there's many different accents depending on where you're from. And some are seen as better or well-to-do than other accents. It's quite mind-boggling to someone who isn't British. So this person will never be able to be a certain profession because of the way they talk. So I was shocked by this, and I couldn't even really believe it because I'd only been here maybe a month. And I thought, this is discriminatory. How could this be? This can't be somewhere like England. But my friend has explained to me that this is how it is here, and unless, even if that friend of theirs changed the way they talked, they'd still be from this certain place and wouldn't be able to aspire to this prestigious job. And I couldn't believe it at the time, but the longer I live here, which is over a year now, the more I see that this is actually true, and people are really discriminated on because of their class, even if they have a good education and are doing good things in society. If I were a British person, I would be outraged about the class system here. It restricts social movement and it keeps the wealthy and privileged people at the top, with almost no opportunities for others to get there. It's kind of like a club that you're born into. In my experience, I think the only people that have really recognized the class system here in Britain are those who leave the country, live in another country for a period of time, like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and then they come back and they have new lenses on their society, as I'm sure I will when I go back to Canada. I will see my society in a new way. I mean, you only need to look at the politicians here in Britain to see that they're mostly white males with posh accent. Posh is another word for rich, I suppose, with posh educations who don't know anything about being a regular working person. I mean, I suppose in the Labour Party there might be more diversity, but I haven't really seen it in my research or in the media. Now, I'm sure the class system has got better here in Britain, and it's come a long way, but it's still around us. For instance, when you open up a newspaper here, it often states people's class completely out of context to the news article. For example, middle-class woman in a grip of cocaine as addiction to glamour soar, or domestic violence is a middle-class problem too. Well, duh, as if we're meant to be surprised that the middle class or upper class people do bad things. I mean, this is kind of what my friend told me a couple weekends ago. I was asking a lot of questions and being confused about this whole talking thing and the whole where your family's from. And she said, well, one of the differences between middle class and working class is that working class people are just less civilized. But this simply isn't true. In the upper classes, people do bad things. They take drugs, they sexually exploit people, they participate in animal cruelty. I mean, have you heard of the fox hunt before? So, how can the class system be demolished, or how can we start to make things a bit more fair if the British people want to do so? Well, in my opinion, it starts at the top with the royal family and ending the monarchy and living in a true democracy. If there were no royals, so no dukes or ladies or princesses or prince, then eventually the class system, as it is now, would have to end. It wouldn't be around anymore. Yeah, it would take hundreds of years, but it would happen eventually. So what would be in its place? Well, it would be similar to other well-functioning nations like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, I think Iceland. For instance, in Canada, where I'm from, so I'm going to draw on my experiences. The mayor of my town, Vancouver, is a guy who started his business making juice. So just a regular guy. Also, the leader of our province, so in America there's states, in Canada there's province, the leader of that, she is from the educational system. So again, kind of just a regular Jill. So I'm not saying that these other Commonwealth countries have no problems. Of course they do. A lot of them being around Aboriginal peoples, which will be in another vlog on another day. And they have their own unique problems themselves. But at least in these countries, where you are in society doesn't have to be with how you talk or where your family is from, but rather what you have as a profession and how much money you make. In Canada, for instance, a bin man is seen as just as respectable of a profession because you make good money doing it. A bin man is just as respectable as a teacher, an accountant, or a banker. And that's because all these jobs are important to society and should be valued equally. It comes down to this. I think a person's value is from what they contribute to society, not including children, of course, or those who have illnesses or disabilities. Those who are born rich and don't contribute to society in a meaningful way, like the royal family, should not be on top of the society hierarchy. It's completely illogical. In a society where you don't contribute anything, you are essentially a leech, a slacker. And this is what upper class, people who already have a lot of wealth, and the royal family do. It shouldn't be something to inspire to. They aren't any better than someone who's on state benefits because both of them aren't doing anything to contribute to society. And often people on state benefits get so much slack that they are lazy, they don't have a job. So, however, the gap in lifestyle between these two types of people and the respect that they get is so great. And it shouldn't be, because essentially they're the same. They don't contribute to society. Thanks. Bye. How do I stop this?